Hello everyone, welcome back. So before I jump into sales strategy, this is actually going to be an in-between episode. So I think this is episode 5.1. So what I wanted to talk about before I get to it is I remembered that I had some quick tips I wanted to share around shortening the sales cycle. So I've came across a lot of sales reps, a lot of entrepreneurs, and they're talking about sales cycles that are anywhere from 3 months to even a year. And I think that if that's the case with you, you probably have too long of sales cycles and you're not doing things right. So what could be some of the reasons that are causing this delay in closing your customers? The most common reason is typically when companies or reps are approaching leads too quickly and they're not qualified and they're not ready to buy it. So some examples and some tips that I'll give around shortening the sales cycle will include, for example, first off, qualifying your customer with BANT. So BANT stands for B-A-N-T, budget, authority, need, and timeline. So does the person that you're speaking to have the right budget for your product or service at this moment in time? Are they the right decision maker, or does someone else need to be involved in the room? Is this a problem that they're facing right now, or is it something that they'll face in the future? And then of course, timeline, what is what external factors affect their buying decision, their buying process? It could be, let's say if a company has a budget cycle where it ends in March, you might want to hit them before March because they might have any unused budget that needs to be spent, or you might try to hit them after March when they have new budget allocation, right? So that's quickly how you can qualify them. And then once you've qualified those customers, you can also set up triggers. So I love using triggers. If you have a good CRM tool like HubSpot, you can set up what we call this marketing qualified lead, and there's a sales qualified lead trigger. So a marketing qualified lead could be, let's say, for example, if someone has viewed your blog post 5 times, for example, then it'll send you a notification that this customer is a marketing qualified lead. Maybe you can put them into a specific marketing funnel that will lead to them booking a demo, then they become a sales qualified lead. Or if they're, if they have visited your pricing page, say, 2 or 3 times, then you can set up a trigger over there, and that will identify them as a sales qualified lead. So you want to set up this kind of triggers so that you can more quickly identify if someone is actually ready to buy, and then go after them at that point in time, instead of going after them too early and taking the sales rep into the actual marketing process and making the sales rep educate the customer, which is not the most efficient use of time. Make sense? So that's a bit on qualifying leads. Another tip that I can give on shortening sales cycle is I see a lot of reps not setting clear next steps in their conversations. So either through email or through phone. If you do get someone on the phone, make sure that during the call you actually book the next follow-up meeting. So you'll want to actually get them to book it in, look at their calendar before you end the call instead of leaving it and then trying to discuss through email and find the time. So that drags out the sales cycle. Sometimes people don't respond to emails. Sometimes people can't find the time that works. So make sure you do it during the call. Make sure that you ask them like, hey, who else needs to be involved in this to move it forward? And you try to get all those people in the room at the same time as well. Another really interesting example is I commonly see a lot of B2B companies over-formalizing the sales process. So what happens over there is you use contracts, you use proposals, and that drags out the process because then a company that you're bringing on board needs to get their legal team on board, needs to get their financial or maybe even their technical person to review some of the documents for implementation. So you want to try to remove those barriers for entries as much as possible. So there was a great example where I worked with one company where they had a 6-month-long sales cycle. They were providing software to hospitals and to universities. So you would imagine hospitals and universities, large institutions, very formal process for adopting technology. What they found was that their platform, so maybe to explain a bit more, their platform basically allows hospitals to manage student residencies. So if you're a medical student, you need a residency in the hospital needs to manage which student is going to which department and who are they interning under, which doctor are they training under. So what they did is when they were onboarding their customers initially, they would get these hospitals and these universities to sign different documents, different agreements in order to implement their software and systems. So they had a competitor in the marketplace, and I asked them to mystery shop one of their competitors. And turns out that their competitors were not using contracts at all. They were offering the platform, getting the hospitals to come on board just to test it out, see how it works, and then they include all the clauses that they needed into the terms and conditions and privacy policies within the platform. So it's not a formal document that people need to sign off. And they found that by adopting a similar strategy to their competitor, they were able to shorten their sales cycle from about 6 months to 2 weeks. That's a drastic change. So you might be over-formalizing the process. I've seen another great example from one of our great mentors, Paul. He likes to run what he calls whiteboard sessions. So he'll come into a company, he will use the whiteboard, and he will sit down and talk about some of the problems with the company, write it out on a whiteboard, and then come up with solutions there and then. And then he'll say, okay, let's start the relationship by working off what we have proposed over here. And that's the informal MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. So instead of worrying about documentation, your goal with documentation anyways is to align expectations. So as long as you can get your client to align expectations with you, you should be able to get them all rolling. So that's it for decreasing sales cycles. If you have any great tips that you've seen for decreasing sales cycles, I'd love to hear from you. So do comment in the section down below, and let's see what everyone is doing to decrease sales cycles. Right? See you.